Should I start? Last week I've been reviewing Ronald's PR, and it seems no progress on his end. So I'm doing some clean up, and that's me. Chumei.
Uh, I review some PRs and I convert the tree to use interruptible future. I have finished it and will provide the PR soon. That's all.
Greg, anything to share with us?
I've been moving this week. I just wanted to make sure I was keeping up with everybody else.
Okay. Hawan, welcome. Anything you want to share with?
No, hi.
Okay. For next time. And Riddick.
Hello. Two main areas of work. First of all, the Crimson backend was working on the misdirected messages during peering. Was updating was tracking the progress in the following gist. It turned out that the problem is because of misappropriate nonces used to configure Messenger. At Ceph, we are testing with containerized environment, but I think that something has changed over the time, and the pin that is being assigned to the process is not one as we have conditional for in the code, but literally two, and always two. So there was a bunch of conflicts, and some thanks for hinting on nonsense. Thanks a lot.
Sure. I think I remember that bug in Classic. It's unfortunate.
How about okay, nonsense are cool, but usually the problem depends actually on two factors: port assigned and PID, process ID assigned by kernel. And usually, I think that what we have usually works quite nicely. However, there is still residual tiny probability that those values can be the same. And this might cause some problem. So I wonder whether we should introduce a check maybe when forming an OSD map, maybe in monitor. What do you think?
I don't think it's worth it. I think a more interesting question is, should we just always use random nonces?
Okay.
The probability of a collision will be really low under those conditions.
Yeah. And
remember, we're not worried about the global probability of a collision. We just need two things with the same IP to collide. That's the only time it becomes a problem. Same IP and port, I should say. So
I agree.
Really, the probability is honestly very low.
Yeah, that's true. If we can live with some residual probability of seeing nasty crashes, then that's fine.
Well, I mean, it's an extremely rare case where just an OSD would crash and restart. It can't actually cause incorrectness.
Yeah, quite likely it's just not worth the effort of tackling.
Yeah.
I mean, big checks introduced for OSD mapping at monitor testing, etc. And I agree that the idea to switch to nonces looks very straightforward. It's single play. Actually, there are two plays in the code: one for classical, for the entire classical world, one for Crimson. So it's
yeah,
cheap.
And even PIDs are actually pretty good because OSs make a point of not passing out the same PID twice, close together in time. So I think the current solution is actually pretty okay. It's just that with containers, you always get the same PID. So
yeah,
I think this is an okay solution.
Okay, agreed. Well, let's live with that.
My concern
By the
with
way,
checking the OSD maps is you'd have to go back in time and check several of them, and that strikes me as expensive. So yeah, that's why I don't think it's worth it. If it poses a different problem, though, we can revisit it later.
I just wanted to. I was actually wondering if we can detect such kind of collision on the monitor side, but that's it doesn't scale out, right?
Yeah,
Because
in
we
principle, you can, but you have to go backwards in time and check that IP port combo, which means going back to old
I'm not
OSD
sure we
maps.
would need to go back in time. What about? I thought initially it's just a matter of checking the when crafting new OSD map as a result of, let's say, MOSD boot. It's just a matter of checking that single new items, looking for a duplicate for the addresses that for the OSD we are going to app.
I don't think there can be a duplicate because we couldn't have bound to that port if there was another OSD already on it.
oh,
No, the interesting case is when we come up with a nonce that matches an OSD that hasn't died yet. I think. Under normal circumstances, it's not really possible otherwise.
Well, yeah, because in that case, I think it is entirely impossible. In that case, the bind failure should happen, and because of operating system shouldn't allow to process to listen on the same IP address and port.
Yeah, that's correct. I think that's right. Yeah.
Anyway, okay, here's the PR with the fix. That's one area of work. The second one was and still is performance comparison. I'm discussing with Mark the testing procedures and also made a PR to generalize Alien Store beyond Bluester. Main idea is to have a tool to compare SeaStore, to compare cheap memory-based object store implementations to judge the real overhead that comes solely from Alien Store. It will be mostly used with Memstore. In comparison, when we check for SeaStore performance and confront it with the performance of Memstore behind the Alien. At the moment, I'm seeing that that Alien rises the number of cycles per op during 4K random reads from, let's say, 35,000 cycles per op to maybe 55,000 per op, while still observing the bottleneck, while still observing the reactor being bottlenecked, but the thread pool, the Alien thread pool, being mostly idle and going to semaphore. I'm going to implement some busy waiting and reduce the number of Alien threads just for the sake of experimenting and comparison with SeaStore. That's me.
really, I might understand it correctly that the opt per cycle is of alienized store is higher than that of is higher than classical OD with Bluestore.
No. Everything tested with Crimson. SeaStore was 35 cycles per op.
We lost you.
And Memstore behind Alien Store was 55K cycles per op. in very, very, very rough testing. I think that the reason for that is that we were jumping to kernel for handling the semaphore.
Okay.
Sorry, semaphores.
Have you tried to reduce the number of work thread to 1? Well, the default number was 6.
I think so. If I recall correctly, it lowered the number, the overhead by maybe 10%. But I still was seeing, the semaphore being jumped to kernel.
Okay, thank you. Ronan.
Hi, everyone. I'm handling. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, good. I'm handling two issues. Grab code. One, I issued a PR, but had some objections to the way logging is handled. The logging of the PG status is handled in Scrub code. This is one issue I am handling. The other relates to a race between statuses when scrubbing terminates, and this is something that I hope to issue a PR soon. That's it for me. And by the way, Sam, if you notice, Josh comments on the log PR.
I saw it.
I'm wondering whether to keep this PR for the backport and do things better for the way you suggested for the ongoing, the current version.
Generally speaking, it's best to minimize diversions between master and the backport branch. So I guess it depends on how complicated your actual fix turns out to be. If it's not very complicated, then no biggie. If from our discussion, it sounded like the answer was probably that you just don't need to do that in the destructor. Right?
Yeah. Okay. That's true. Okay, I see, and I agree. I see how it turns out to be in the end. And thanks again.
Probably another solution is to use a degraded prefix in the destructor.
The thing is, the code that's calling this probably doesn't need to happen in the first place. Like, this code it shouldn't be the case that the PG is registered in the OSD by the time the PG is being destructed anyway. So I think the fact that this code is being called in the first place is a bug. I don't think the problem is the logging.
Okay, sure. So the probably right fix is not just to drop that code in the destructor, right?
Well, and assert and make sure that it really is being cleaned up right. But yeah.
Okay.
Yes, that's what I try to do. So that's it for me.
Sam?
I am still rewriting the LBA tree. I'm getting close. It will be way better this time.
Xuehan.
This week I refactored. sorry. This week I refactored the extend placement manager PR and made the fresh extents in transaction also go through the extend placement manager to have their final address determined. I just repushed the PR this morning. Right now, there seems to be some issue within the SeaStore unit test case, but I think fixing that issue won't cause major modification to the PR. So I think the PR is good for review. That's all for me.
Xuehan. Yinxin?
Week, I did some profiling with the SeaStore metrics implemented, the metrics implemented in SeaStore. So if you open it, there are some diagrams. The test scenario is I wrote like 35 megabytes data using the Rails bench, and until the SeaStore crashed. So I have collected 21 rounds of bench result and concluded some graphs. There are three sections. The first section is cache usage and cache hit ratio. Seems the cache hit is about 98 or 99%. So it looks good. And the second section is about the transaction invalidate. So I want to know how many efforts are discarded because of transaction invalidate, and it seems it's around 100% or 150%, and it doesn't seem, so the invalidate ratio doesn't seem to drop when writing 35 megabytes data. So maybe we'll need to write more data. We'll need to write more data to evaluate how the pattern of how the invalidate efforts are dropped.
That's 1.5%, right? Am I reading this right?
150% means when writing one data and 1.5 data is invalidated.
Wait, you mean I don't quite understand. So we see a conflict about every other transaction, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So I measure the invalidated efforts to count the fresh extents, the mutate extents, read extents, retired, and compare it to committed transactions. So that's the ratio. The ratio is to divide the invalidated transactions by the committed transactions. So that is around 1 to 1.5.
How many concurrent writes?
You can refer to the test scenario. It's just default Rails bench from empty store.
Interesting. Okay.
So it's,
the fact that so my concern is that the fact that the cache usage is so extremely high tells me that the working set is extremely small. Because
and if we're only writing 35 megabytes of object data,
hang on. What I'm saying is SeaStore makes no attempt to actually cache anything.
Yeah, I think that's correct.
Yeah.
The cached usage is mostly about the dirty use. You can see the trend of the data is very close to the dirty usage. So mostly like only 50 extents are cached.
Okay, so that makes sense then. So under those conditions, I would expect this many conflicts. That sounds right.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how deep the LBA tree was?
No, I didn't measure that, but we can add.
That would be interesting.
You mean the height of the tree?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can refer to the third graph in the transaction validate section. That is, which kind of extent is causing the conflict.
Oh, wow, that's super cool.
Yeah, so we can see that the conflict in the LBA tree is dropping.
That makes
from
sense as it gets bigger.
Yeah.
Huh.
But oh no, it doesn't drop significantly, and I think maybe it is because it hasn't been integrated with interruptible future. So we will need to.
I wouldn't expect that to make it any better. I don't think. Wait. I think it does mechanically the same thing. My question is, wait, sorry. So the total size was 35 megabytes?
Yeah, total right.
And this is with 4K objects. Huh. Okay. Yeah, I would have expected that to go down in the Ono tree faster. That's interesting.
So the third part is I evaluate the write amplification effect. So the first graph shows compares the write at segment manager level divided by the write at Rados bench level. So the overall write amplification is around 3.
That's really good, actually.
Okay.
So normally,
write.
with a conventional Flash FTL layer, typically the write amplification is over 4.
Okay.
So,
yeah, but I think that's we can still optimize it.
Oh yes, we're not even close to being done. I was also going to point out, I think this is artificially low. So the rest of what I was going to say is, under normal circumstances, with a larger data set, this will be a lot worse, I think. So, but I'm intrigued that it's as low as it is. Let me put it that way. I would have thought it would be worse, even with a small data set.
Okay. So it's very even. So I think it's in our current implementation, it's about 3 or 300%. And if you look at the second graph, it divides the right.
What I mean is, okay, so this workload has some properties. This is a strictly create once, no overwrites workload, and we're using small objects. So in a lot of ways, this is the best case scenario for write amplification, because we don't go back and rewrite logical addresses.
We didn't do cleaner yet. There's no cleaning works yet.
You disabled the cleaner? No, right.
No, the cleaner doesn't start it because the device has a lot of free space.
It
so the
should
cleaning
have.
Doesn't start it.
The way I set it up, oh, that's true. It won't start until the device is like what, 20% full?
Yeah.
15% full? Okay, yeah.
Yes. So it's under the condition that cleaner doesn't start it.
In that case, this write application is really bad. Okay. Yeah, what we're seeing is the metadata overhead from the O nodes, mostly.
Yeah, so if you check this, okay.
Oh, sorry. I'm saying this is true even with BlueStore. If you look at just the raw size of the object info in the OSD, the metadata overhead for the OSD starts at something like 1.5K, something like that. When you add the PG log rates, the OSD is going to do in the background, and then all SeaStore's internal metadata, 3 times. That sounds right. Go ahead. Sorry, you were going to point out stats related to that, I think.
The next is really interesting because it measures the write amplification from different components, and you can see object data block is 1.0 because all the writes are directed into object data blocks, so it's 1.0. So
because the write size is aligned to the internal block size.
Yeah. The write amplification from Ono tree is a little high because it is more than 1.0. I suspect it's because we haven't implemented the adaptive value size, so we always insert 1,200 KB for each O node. So I think that adds the right application for the O node.
It's going to be that and also the OSD itself. The object window is just pretty big. But I agree. The main driver here is going to be the O node block's internal size.
And interestingly, another that I measured all the writes from extent level. So I can understand compare it with segment level writes. So it seems there are still 40% writes that is from the segment level metadata overhead.
Oh, 40% of it's from the segment itself. That makes sense. These are pretty small transactions, so the metadata block in the journal layout is 4K itself. Will you do something clever to make it not do that?
So that's all I currently have. So I'm working on refining the metrics now. So I will send out that PR after I finish it. So that's all from me.
That is really cool. Thanks.
Yingxin, I'm wondering if does it make sense to automate the process of generating the graph, the performance.
I will send out. I will, because I'm still refining the metrics. I will still need to modify my analysis scripts that's written in Python. So I will share it to you later after I finished.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you.
Modify metrics. Yeah, I still
need
need
to
to
reproduce the test.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if it makes sense, there's a perf tools directory in CBT where I stick stuff like this.
Yeah, I think we can consider to integrate it.
Well, I'm saying there's a directory in CBT. I'm trying to find it. It's tools, FIO object store tools. That has some just rough analysis scripts that I've made. If you feel like you get something useful enough that it might be useful, you could dump it in there. There's not much quality expectation. It's up to you.
Okay. It currently are just random Python scripts, so I still need to organize them together.
I think CBT is written in Python also, so that's a better place for dumping this kind of script out there. Hopefully
well, I'm saying this directory isn't even integrated into CBT. It's just a couple of raw data analysis scripts that have been useful to me in the past.
Can you paste the directory?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, thank you. So that's me.
Thank you, Shihan. Also, sorry, thank you, Yingxin. Anything else? By the way, Aaron's change is still being reviewed by Abby. It was merged, but later it was reverted. But it sent as forced change, and it's still pending on review. No? Okay, thank you, and talk to you later. Have a good one.
Later. Good week all.
Thank you. See you later. Bye.
Later. Bye.